In my experience, some people discern their call to their priesthood, through a single, dramatic, clarifying, or defining moment. And I think those stories are beautiful and wonderful, but it's not my story. I really discern my own call through a series of several faithful steps over a really long period of time. I spent this is sort of a second career for me, a second vocation. So I spent about 7 years practicing law, and I worked at a great firm with great people, and was appreciated for my work, and everything was going well. I was on the track for partnership and everything. By sort of the world standards, I had everything that a young professional living in a big city should want. And yet I just still had this really kind of an unsettled feeling, a sense that this wasn't really what God was calling me to in any sort of a long-term or permanent sense. And so I began to prayerfully explore what else God might be calling me to do. And through prayer and fasting and seeking wise counsel, I was led to a job in church ministry full-time, which was shocking to me and everybody else. It wasn't at all what I expected, but I went, and it was wonderful, and I never regretted leaving the practice of law. To this day, I have never regretted it. So I spent 3 years working on church staff at a church in Atlanta where my husband and I were living at the time. Well, he became my husband like in the middle of that period. But and during that time, again, that kind of unsettled feeling came back, that sense that like God was calling me to more, to something different. And so I knew that I would need some equipping for that. And so I went to seminary. And then while I was in seminary, it was like this whole world cracked open as I began to study the role of women in the early church and in the history of the church, and to meet real life examples of women leading in churches. And that really expanded my imagination for what was possible. Then I had to set about sort of speaking with people who had been at it for a long time, who had more experience than me, and beginning to prayerfully discuss with them and explore my own giftings, and really went through a process of having my giftings sort of affirmed and confirmed by people who I trust and care about. And that is how I discern my calling to the priesthood.